You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
Class 12 students of St. Joseph's School in Ganj Basoda town of Madhya Pradesh's Vidhisha district were writing their maths paper on 6th December. This was the board exam, mind you, something that's stressed to be a career maker in this country. But little did they expect to find the school under attack in the middle of the exam. Based on an allegation about 8 students being converted into Christianity in a conversion drive, members of Hindutva groups, including the VHP, gheraoed the school around noon that day. Video footage from the school show a mob of around 300 to 500 people chanting Jai Shri and Missionaries Murdabad outside the school gate. Some miscreants who managed to get inside the school were also seen to be pelting stones at the building and vandalizing school property. Following that, 11 people were arrested. However, all of those save 3 were released on bail later. And the police told the Quint that prima facie there was no evidence of any conversion. Now, although it's been a week since the actual incident happened, why we're talking about it now is because unfortunately this kind of an attack against the Christian minority is not a one-off event. It's becoming a grotesque pattern rather, with churches being frequently ransacked across the country and prayer meetings being disrupted by Hindutva mobs on mere suspicions of forced religious conversions. The dangerous rhetoric around conversions is sometimes also getting abetted by elected governments in states like BJP-ruled Karnataka, for instance, who are giving credence to such sentiments with anti-conversion law proposals. But are anti-conversion laws constitutional? Are religious conversions all illegal? Is the freedom to practice one's faith fast diminishing in India? Is the country not safe for religious minorities anymore? In this episode, you will hear voices from ground zero of teachers, parents, VHP leaders to piece together what really happened at St. Joseph's School, where these suspicions of forced conversions are stemming from, and how are people responding to these allegations. We'll also be joined by our legal editor, Vakasha Sachdev. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you. This is your host, Shorbury. Long before this attack took place at the school, the germ of a suspicion of religious conversions was already doing the rounds on social media. The National Commission of Protecting Child Rights had written to the Vidhisha Collector and District Magistrate, alleging that in a Holy Communion service held on 31st October at St. Joseph's Parish, 8 children were converted to Christianity. The allegations were made based on a clipping from an article of sorts of the St. Joseph's Church, which showed 8 children participating at the Holy Communion. And it's this very allegation which was at the root of the attack on St. Joseph's School. While speaking to the Quint's correspondent Vishnu Kant, a teacher at the school who wished to remain anonymous recalls how there were miscreants carrying rods. She talks about how stone pelting disrupted the exam that students were writing and how frightened they were.
The students who were writing their exams were frightened. They asked, "Ma'am, what's happening?" There was a loud noise outside. Stones were being pelted inside the classroom. We raced to the upper section of the school building with the test papers and everything else, hoping that the mob won't be able to reach us there. There was stone pelting there as well.
वहाँ पर भी पत्थर आ गए थे. कांच टूटा हुआ डला था. आज भी आप क्लास में जाके चेक कर सकते हो.
The school authorities claimed that they had received word of such a gheraoed being planned and that they had also alerted the police beforehand. Yet, as we know, days later on 6th December, a mob of men attacked the school with children in it. And the teacher alleges that the police did not help the school authorities.
हम लोगों ने सूचना, हम लोगों ने मिलकर टीचर्स ने, प्रिंसिपल ने एक लेटर बनाया था और थाना प्रभारी के नाम से.
Together, the teachers and the principal of the school, including me, had drafted a letter in Hindi and sent it to the Thana. But we didn't get any protection from them. Only 4 policemen had come and they just stood and watched. They didn't stop the mob. Maybe they were wondering about how to control such a big mob. Nonetheless, it was the police's responsibility. We had alerted them beforehand when we received word of such an impending attack on the school. Yet they made no attempt to protect us.
सुनाई में आ रहा है कि हमारे स्कूल को घेरा जाने वाला है. ये सब स्थिति हम उनको अवगत करा चुके थे. उसके बाद भी पुलिस प्रशासन ने हमारे स्कूल को बचाने की कोई कोशिश नहीं की.
Now coming to the allegations of conversions, were the 8 children in fact converted into Christianity? Were they students of St. Joseph's School, which was gheraoed? Through a ground reportage, this is what we've learned so far. First, the parent of at least one of the 8 children confirmed that they were all already a part of the Christian community. Listen in.
कोई धर्म परिवर्तन नहीं, ये हमारी एक धार्मिक विधि है जिसको परम प्रसाद संस्कार कहते हैं.
There were no conversions. This is one of our Christian ceremonies, and my child was part of it along with 7 other children. I can tell you that I'm Christian by birth, my parents were Christians, and I hail from South India.
मैं by birth Christian हूँ, मेरे माता पिता Christian थे और मैं South India को belong करता हूँ.
And second, in response to the allegation of conversion drive, Father Josley of St. Joseph's Parish confirmed that a Holy Communion did happen, but for Christian children. The service is meant for only those who are already Christians. And he also says that he has no knowledge about which school the 8 children attended or the children who actually go to the school.
हमारा एक धार्मिक विधि है, ईसाई बच्चों को ही एक परम प्रसाद करके एक संस्कार.
The Holy Communion service is only meant for Christian children. People from other religions can't be a part of this at all. Yes, we definitely had a service, but somebody circulated the video with malintentions and wrong information that we converted Hindu children. This is baseless. It is an outright lie. As far as I know, none of those 8 children study in St. Joseph's School, and I'm a priest by profession. I don't know which child attends which school.
मैं जानता हूँ, मैं उनका एक भी वहाँ पे बच्चा दाखिला नहीं है, और मैं यहाँ का पल्ली पुरोहित यानी पुजारी हूँ. मेरे को स्कूल में कहाँ कौन बच्चे पढ़ते उसकी जानकारी नहीं रहता है.
Now in India, we've seen rumor mongering leading to a loss of many a few innocent lives. If you look at the several lynching incidents that have taken place across states, a lot of them were based on unverified WhatsApp forwards and fake news being peddled as truth. So the question is, who would really be responsible had any of the school children been hurt in this violent demonstration that took place on the basis of what seems to be merely a suspicion? Would the organizers of the demonstration take responsibility? The Quint spoke to Nilesh Agarwal, VHP leader, who is a part of this quote-unquote demonstration. He says that the issue is not about a protest of violence. He believes that the Hindu Samaj is being looted, that they're being converted into other religions through quote-unquote love jihad or missionary education.
मुद्दा आंदोलन का या हिंसा का नहीं है, मुद्दा ये है कि एक विचारधारा का है. आज बहुसंख्यक के हिंदू समाज.
This is not an incident. This is religious conversion. This has been happening for years in churches, in St. Joseph's School, in villages, in the name of service, in the name of education. Children are being converted to Christianity. We are against any kind of conversion, be it through missionary education or love jihad. At no cost will we allow conversion of Hindus. We had information via social media that 8 Hindu kids were converted to Christianity. Our job was to gheraoed the school. But at some point, some antisocial elements entered the group and started pelting stones at the school. But our volunteers tried to stop them.
चोट लग सकती थी, जबकि प्रदर्शन शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से बाहर करने का था. अगर किसी असामाजिक तत्वों ने अगर पत्थर फेंके तो हम उसकी निंदा करते हैं.
Now the concerning fact is not simply this incident. The larger point to note here is that this sentiment of Hindu religion being under attack through a spike in conversions, that very sentiment has been roiling amongst hardliner Hindutva groups. We've seen love jihad laws being promulgated in several states without any shred of evidence, resulting in the harassment of interfaith couples. In one of our podcasts, we had also talked about how several investigations into love jihad allegations had come to naught. You can check out the link on the show notes. But moving on, we're seeing businesses being owned by Muslim minorities under attack. We're seeing sanctioned namaz grounds shrinking due to protests from Hindutva groups. And now, add to that, attacks on churches over conversion drive allegations. Now, if you look at Madhya Pradesh alone, there have been reports of VHP threatening to demolish churches in Jhabua district, accusing priests of forcefully converting Hindus to Christianity. Locals have also alleged that instead of offering protection, they're facing harassment from police and local administration. In fact, elsewhere in the capital, Delhi, a warehouse that was converted into a church was vandalized in the Dwarka locality. On the same day, Karnataka's Belur town saw a similar incident where alleged members of Bajrang Dal disrupted a Christian prayer meeting, accusing the community of conversion. And speaking of Karnataka, where the Basavaraj Bommai-run government is planning to introduce an anti-conversion bill, the state government has itself ordered a survey of churches in the state to check quote-unquote forced conversions. We also have an in-depth coverage on this by a senior correspondent, Nikhila Henry. You can check out the Quint website or find the link to our reports on the show notes. In certain instances, we've also seen openly instigating statements being made against the Christian minorities, such as the incident in Chhattisgarh, where Hindutva leader Swami Paramatmanand, in the presence of BJP leaders, called for quote-unquote beheading of those who come for religious conversions. And this was said at a protest organized against an alleged rise in religious conversions of Hindus to Christianity. But to crunch down such incidents into numbers just so you get an idea of how many of such attacks have spiked in the country, a report titled Christians Under Attack in India, which was released by a joint initiative of non-governmental organizations such as Association for Protection of Civil Rights, the United Christian Forum and United Against Hate, found out that 305 such cases happened across the country just between January and September. Looking at this number, the question to ask is there a ban on religious conversions in a constitutional democracy like India? Assuming that religious conversions do happen, is it all illegal? And what really counts as an illegal conversion? The Quint's legal editor Vakasha Sachdev says that the one thing to remember is that there can be no blanket ban in a constitutional democracy.
So what you have to understand, what you have to remember actually is that religious conversion, what is it at the end of the day? It's the exercise of a personal choice. It's the exercise of personal freedom to decide that you want to change a personal faith. Leaving aside sort of, let's not get into, to start with, the question of what the Constitution says. On first principles, is this something which we can consider should ever be illegal? No, because if someone wants to change their faith, that's a purely personal decision. It is not anyone else's business. Despite our history of religiosity, the massive way in which religion plays a huge function in public life and private life, the Indian Constitution is one which is built for providing freedom, which is built for ensuring protections, which have to be there for people to truly be free. So that is why you very, very much see, you very, very much cannot say that all conversion in India would be illegal. If you're going to say, okay, all right, but there have to be some instances where things go wrong. That's obvious, right? Now, if someone's grabbing someone by the throat and saying, now you have to change your religion or else, or they're threatening someone else, or they've defrauded them, they've told them, oh, we'll do this for your family if you convert, and then they don't do it. Now, these are cases where basically the person's choice is no longer like their actual choice. It's a very basic, simple idea of consent, right? What is actually truly consensual, what is not? The moment there's anything which kind of which comes in, which takes away the person's actual ability and agency to make their decision, then that should obviously become illegal. So, which is why obviously force and fraud and misrepresentation clearly become grounds to do so. Now, the thing, of course, is that force is something which can be either complained about by the person who's made the conversion, they can later say it's there, or misrepresentation or fraud as well. But these are grounds which are fairly easy to prove and show. So that's the idea behind behind saying, okay, now these should be illegal ways to have conversion. The problem, of course, is that in India, because of the panic and the hysteria and the rhetoric about anti-conversion, we have seen a history of it not being restricted to these very clear and understandable grounds for making certain conversions illegal. So it's not just force and fraud in India. We also have this weird concept of allurement which comes in many state laws which deal with this, which is a lot more tricky because it even brings within its ambit things like saying, okay, maybe material gain for which someone may convert a religion. I mean, again, how should that matter to the state or to the society at large? Even if I want to switch to another religion because they're saying they'll give me a few lakhs of rupees, how is that anyone else's business? But it's not just that which gets hit by this concept of allurement. You also get the idea of changing a religion for a better life, for a promise of a better life. And this is particularly problematic given the way you have many Dalit and tribal communities and people from lower castes who switch religion for a chance at a life with more dignity. So this is a huge, and it's clear that is the objective of including this kind of things, to stop those people from converting, which shows you just how much in bad faith these conversion laws are.
Now, Article 25 protects the right to freely profess, practice and propagate one's religion. Moreover, in April 2021, the Supreme Court also reiterated that people are free to choose their religion. Justice Nariman had in fact pointed out, why do you think there's the word propagate? However, currently 4 states, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Madhya Pradesh, have enacted anti-conversion laws which seek to prevent love jihad or conversion for the purpose of marriage. But are such laws constitutionally valid? Is the state legitimizing unconstitutional sentiments by such laws?
I mean, the newest spate of laws which have come after this, which are tied to this whole frenzy and panic over love jihad. I mean, they're basically just anti-Muslim legal instruments, because the objective is you're never really going to see anyone caught for a conversion from being Muslim to Hindu and doing it. And I think the history of these enactments and the way the cases have gone in these states shows that. The idea is basically it's again, it's a very dark and unfortunate thing that it's basically about trying to stop conversion of Hindus to Islam to get married. Now, are these laws constitutionally valid? I mean, there is actually, I mean, these new laws which now add this sort of layer of anti-marriage, anti-conversions from marriage, are actually in weaker footing than even the other original laws which deal with already a vague concept like allurement. Like, already the fact that you got something like allurement in even the older laws puts them also at risk. If we look at the Supreme Court's jurisprudence over the last few decades on the right to privacy, on the right to dignity, and the right to choice. So there's a lot of judgments, whether it's the Puttaswamy judgment on privacy or whether it's the Hadia verdict, which all deal with these kind of matters of personal choice, which would potentially mean that kind of concept of allurement becomes an issue, because you're not actually looking at someone doing it without consent. So already those kind of laws face a risk of being illegal because of that aspect. Those which have now introduced these new angles about conversion for marriage are even more at risk. And this is something which is very well highlighted, I think, by the Gujarat High Court in its order staying the marriage related provisions of the Gujarat law. Because the Gujarat law also, even though they had an older law, they made amendments to add in this nonsense as well. Now, when this was done, the Gujarat High Court stayed these marriage conversion for marriage provisions and expressly pointed this out. It said that this is not a matter of coercion or someone being forced to do something where they don't have an actual choice. This is a purely personal decision which they should be allowed to take, and it's nobody else's business. So these laws are very clearly, I think, going to be, once there's actual proper judicial scrutiny, found to be unconstitutional. What the state is doing is very much legitimizing unconstitutional sentiments, because it's allowing families and local goons and village communities to try and interfere in interfaith marriages, to interfere in these decisions.
And that's a wrap for this episode. But please follow The Big Story Monday to Friday for in-depth analytical breakdown of the headline-making news of the day. For more stories, more ground reportage and analytical pieces on this, please check out the Quint website. If you like listening to this episode, please subscribe to the Big Story playlist for episodic updates. We're live on Apple, Google Podcast, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website and check out the podcast section. For any feedback, shoot an email to podcasts@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.